big fan of your work. I was introduced to Invincible early on in my local comic book store. I haven't gotten through the whole thing, but this show came along and it is phenomenal. Holy shit, it's amazing. At first glance, Mark, he's an overwhelmed teenage superhero, but he has such a good heart and he has natural hangups. Was that always the way the character was going to play out, or did he evolve that way?
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to start the series with a young, naive teenage superhero, akin to, early days of Spider-Man, or in the 90s, there were a lot of solo Robin series that I was reading, in my teens. And so I thought that was really cool. And I wanted to introduce the world through this young, naive kid and have him, grow and mature and reach adulthood through the story. That was kind of the idea, was to watch this guy, grow and become an adult and get married and have kids and see where that goes. And so I think that, being able to introduce a superhero world through that lens and watch the world expand as Invincible's awareness of the world around him expands is kind of a fun thing to do. And it's something that we're trying to carry forward with the animated series as well.
Now, what do you think? What do you think makes the Beware the Superman story be such a fertile concept to explore?
Well, I think that when it comes to superheroes, you're dealing with extremely powerful beings, and the concept of power corrupting is something that's inherent in a lot of fiction and real life. And you know, we live in a cynical world, and so that has made Superman a little harder to do. Not impossible, but with the cynicism that's present, you are always going to be suspicious of someone that is that powerful and is that kind and welcoming. There's always this sense of like, can I really trust this? And that's something that is really a lot of fun to play with, and to see a world being somewhat utterly helpless in the face of someone that's this powerful is a really fun dynamic, and is really interesting to explore. And what Invincible does is it layers on a father and son story in that dynamic, and makes for a really interesting story of coming of age. I try to take everything that I do and I boil it down to something that is relatable in my life, and I hope that it's relatable to everyone else. And I had a pretty profound time in my late teens where you start to realize, oh, my parents are human beings. Like, for your entire life, you see them as these unflinching monoliths of like security and stability, and then you reach a point where you're emotionally aware enough to be like, oh, these people are having problems, and this is things that everyone deals with, and they're just like me. Like, they're scared and I'm scared, and this is this is different. And to be able to layer that into a superhero world, and heighten things, I think this is something that anyone can relate to. We all hit that point where we go, wait a minute, like, my dad isn't Superman and he can't do it. It's just that much more interesting to bring that kind of thing into a much more interesting superhero world. I apologize for rambling for 4 hours.
I can hear you talk all day, sir. Now, one of the big moments that people, me and all my friends, all talked about was, towards the end of that first episode. But why the tweak that the Omni-Man was attacking the Guardians playing out earlier in the story? And did you ever consider opening the show in a different manner?
No, I mean, from minute one, when I realized that we were doing an hour-long animated series, that was kind of the construct of the episode. I knew that I wanted to open with a big original sequence that introduced the Guardians of the Globe in a really cool way. And so that became the White House sequence. And I knew that I wanted to end the episode with those characters, spoiler alert, dying a spectacular death.
My jaw was on the floor. Like, I was like, whoa, it was insane.
Awesome. Great to hear. And it's just, that's the times we live in. You almost don't even have a full episode to hook people. And I was a little worried that people wouldn't even get to the end of the episode to see that twist. But I decided, that's the risk I'm willing to take, because lulling people into that sense of security where, there's no violence in the episode up to that last sequence. There's very little profanity, if any at all. I don't remember very well. And so it seems like a very, it's got emotional maturity to a certain extent when you see these scenes of Mark interacting with his parents. But for the most part, it seems like it could be a show for children in a way that, you're going, why was there a warning at the beginning of this episode? This doesn't make any sense. And to be kind of put on your heels at the end of that episode where it shows you what this series can and will be, I wanted that gut punch where you're like, oh, I did not expect this. This is, something different. It's possible that Frank Darabont handled it a little bit more eloquently in the Walking Dead show by having, Rick shoot that little girl in the head in the teaser of the episode. That kind of, does everything that we accomplished in Invincible in the opening like 4 or 5 minutes. But by doing it over an entire episode, I hope that it still, fills you with that sense of, I am on this journey. I want to see where this show goes. I am on this streaming service. I will now watch episode 2, and hopefully, I will continue watching this show for the rest of my life. That was
Wait for episode 2. Couldn't wait for episode 2.
Awesome.
Now, there's been some changes from the comic to the show. What has been kind of your favorite tweaks to the story so far?
I think it's really cool having Cecil and Donald be much more prevalent in the early, chapters of the story. I think Walton Goggins and Chris Diamantopoulos are just absolutely great in those characters, in those roles, I should say, and having them be, interacting with these stories because they don't come into the series in the comic books at all until certain storylines that have not wrapped up in the show wrap up, and so we don't see them for a while. But having them there and having them doing things behind the scenes, I think is a really cool change.
Now, what do you think the key to keeping the characters like emotionally grounded, even in wild situations such as like superheroes and magic, and even intergalactic universe that is Invincible? How do you keep those characters grounded?
Well, I think that that's another change that I'm really happy with is expanding the character of Amber and expanding the character of Debbie. These are our two real world, non superpowered characters, and they have subplots and goals that are as important to them as the world shattering events that are happening for the superheroes. So by treating their storylines with as much importance and putting them on an even playing field narratively, you kind of show that this is a very grounded series, very relatable series, a very human series, despite the fact that we're casually going to Mars and encountering aliens, and we've got crazy superpowered mob bosses and his superpowered henchmen doing all kinds of nutty things, but Amber and Eve working at that soup kitchen together is just as interesting and character building and essential to the show, and really kind of shows the heart and the humanity of the series.
Now, have you plotted out how many seasons potentially the series is going to go on for, or is that still kind of like up in the air and you'll figure it out once we kind of get there?
I mean, in nailing down what was going to be in the first season, there is a rough roadmap for where things from the comic book would fall and how to continue rearranging things to make it all fit in the animated series. I would never reveal, what that plan actually is, but I will say that there is a plan, and it involves many seasons.
Now, you have a phenomenal cast. Like the cast is quite amazing. Can you talk to me about because now that this was obviously a comic book, is there anything that surprised you with the cast performance that you may include into the show or story beats later into the show based on their performance?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I mean, I'm trying to do this without spoiling things. I think
Yeah.
that what I was talking about, where the non-powered characters have stories as interesting and compelling as the superpowered characters. Um, I didn't know that that would work as well as it was going to work without Zazie Beetz and without Sandra O. And with Sandra O, like you can just give her anything, and it's absolutely compelling. And so I can definitely see us having more Debbie storylines moving forward, and doing some very interesting things with Debbie, because we know that we have Sandra O, and we can lean on her to really carry these scenes in really interesting and compelling ways. So I'm really excited about that.
I was just about to ask you about Debbie. What can you tease about Debbie's investigation into her husband, and where did that element come from?
Oh, I mean, narratively, when we take what we put in the first episode, and we're about to release episode 6, as I say this, so I don't want to spoil anything. But we didn't. Debbie's a very intelligent character who we thought would figure this kind of thing out. It's her husband, and so her going on that journey and discovering these different things, we thought was very good character building thing, and also is just realistic. Like, you want to make sure that you're not portraying your characters as, I guess, stupid, for lack of a better term. And so, and it gives her something really important to do, and it heightens it. Every episode you're waiting for someone else to discover the secret, and for someone else to, you know, for there to be ramifications from them discovering it, or what actions they're going to take now that they know. And it really just ratchets up the tension episode to episode to episode, leading to, some eventual thing that will happen in an upcoming episode that, was possibly going to be somewhat startling without spoiling anything. And I think using that character to add that tension, to the series, I think is really driving the season and making things really more exciting than they would have been otherwise.
Last question I have for you is, there any updates on the Walking Dead movie?
No, there is not.
There you go. That was easy enough. Look, Mr.
Wish I could give you a scoop. Can't.
All good. Mr. Kirkman, look, I'm a huge fan. Thank you so much. I'm happy the show's on the air. Now I got something to watch every Friday. Thank you so much, Mr. Kirkman. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It was great talking to you.